Hey, welcome back to Spellbound. I'm BJ the Book Witch, and this is my February 2022 wrap-up and giveaway. I read 6 books last month, totaling 2,138 pages and averaging 76 pages per day. I read 1 5-star, 1 4.5-star, 3 4 stars, and 1 2-star. So overall, a higher than average reading month. The first book this month is Cam Girl by Leah Raeder. A young artist struggles with her attraction to and obsession with a stranger she meets online after a fatal car accident leaves her paralyzed. This book altered between romance and thriller, hinting throughout the plot at this flashback reveal to the original incident. Unfortunately, the big reveal turned out to be quite blasé, in my opinion, as the main tension for the protagonist turned out to be her own struggle with the concept of the gender binary. 2 stars. Look, I don't know, maybe I'm too mainstream, but I kind of assumed that by this point, we had all agreed that gender was just a social construct where the rules are made up and the points don't matter. Like, if the protagonist had been struggling with her own identity and her own gender, then sure, I would have understood all the angst, but that's not it. This entire book was her obsession with somebody else's gender, and I just don't get that. Maybe it's because I'm pan, but every single time I saw our main character having an existential crisis over somebody else's identity and the gender binary, I was like, why? You're obviously into this person, maybe just get over yourself. I don't know, weird misplaced angst to me, and also the plot was weird and skipped like a scratch CD. The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This is an incredibly written fantasy that takes place in medieval Russia, and it's about the tension between a community's pagan traditions and the onset of Christianity, a tension that becomes particularly taut when it comes to our protagonist, Vasya, who still has deep connections to the old ways. See, Vasya can see the old gods, the Rusalka, the Domovoi, the winter, forest, and water spirits. And when an overzealous priest comes to convert her town, only Vasya can see the harm that does in the hearts of her people, replacing a peaceful contentment with existential fear. So as Vasya grows into a woman, the more she remains true to her own nature, and the more that puts her at risk of being considered a witch. 5 stars. Arden's writing is spectacular, weaving this wintry tale like one of Dunya's own around a warm fire. This book is at once a fairy tale, a moment in history, and a mirror to the present, for any woman willing to look beyond the veil of religion and accept the natural balance of nature. And I'm in the middle of the sequel right now, The Girl in the Tower. Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. Okay, so back at the beginning of last year, I was in one of my regular Wednesday night girls' nights, and we were naturally talking about Hades and Persephone retellings. Now, the thing you need to understand is that these two friends of mine have well-researched, thoughtful, and formal opinions on Hades and Persephone. Everything from the musical Hadestown to dressing up as Persephone in elementary school, and a packaged and rehearsed soapbox on why now Hades and Persephone retellings have made their way to the forefront of the cultural zeitgeist, and more specifically, fantasy romance bookish spheres of discourse. And so, during this conversation, I felt woefully underprepared. I don't have strong feelings about Hades and Persephone. Truth be told, I'm not even that into Greek mythology. Nothing personal, just not my pantheon. So I did what any bookish person would do. I bought an insane amount of Hades and Persephone retellings, and I read them all in record time. The next Wednesday, I came prepared. I had read it all, I thought. Except my friend pointed out that I had missed one, and she was gushing about this webtoon that she was reading called Lore Olympus. She said it was cute and lighthearted with some serious themes and undertones. I was intrigued, but I didn't look into it because at this point I was burnt out on Hades and Persephone. Then, fast forward to December of last year, and Lore Olympus is everywhere. All the booktubers I like are talking about it, and when Barnes & Noble did their December 26th all hardcovers 50% off sale, which by the way I'm still recovering from, I remember standing there looking at this beautiful hardcover graphic novel and debating with myself and thinking, I have been scorned by Hades and Persephone retellings before. I cannot go through with this purchase until I am sure that this is the webtoon that Caitlin was telling me about. And it turns out, yes, it is. It is now a printed and published graphic novel, and it is beautiful, it is fantastic, and it is worth the hype. The art style and pithy prose work really well together, and Smythe creates a really enriching world that can support both the uniqueness and, more importantly, the believability of this modernizing take on Greek mythology. 4.5 stars, highly recommend, and when you see it at Barnes & Noble for 50% off, you should buy it. Next is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. Talk about hype, this book was everywhere last year. You guys ate this one up. This contemporary rom-com is about Olive, a PhD student who engages in a fake dating charade with a notoriously callous professor at the university. I gave this one 4 stars. I would say that it is worth the hype and a cut above the other contemporary romance novels I've read. Personally, I attribute this to the flirty banter and natural witty dialogue. In fact, the dialogue in this book was so well written that I have an entire video about it right here. Hazelwood builds suspense throughout the plot, careful not to rush through mundane moments as well, which I think is important. She also weaves the theme of science experiments and maintaining objectivity through research in a really thorough way without it being kitschy or tiresome. However, we have to talk about the ending. We have to, because that is what brought this book down from a solidly 4.5 star to a low, barely passing 4 star. And fair warning, some light spoilers ahead. The climax of this book is entirely contrived of the hero saves damsel in distress trope, which is directly at odds with the independent and capable women that Hazelwood describes in this book. Basically, our main character is sexually harassed and then kind of blackmailed. And she internalizes this attack, which was odd, but not entirely unrealistic. Many victims of sexual harassment blame themselves first. But when she does finally tell her knight in shining armor boyfriend, by accident, by the way, the typically cool, calm, and collected doctor turns all caveman-like with bulging, veiny arm muscles, all the better to protect you with. And our fierce protagonist turns into a weeping willow over here in the corner. And then, when the board of educational professionals, or literally whoever the hell, are all like, what is this commotion in a public place? Instead of the protagonist stepping forward in that moment to explain the situation, her suddenly Herculean boyfriend over here clenches his manly jaw and says, I'm going to take care of this, and then I will come find you, and I will take care of you. I'm sorry, what in the Harlequin is this dialogue? And by the way, yes, he does fix it. The man came to save the day. Our fiercely strong, confident, intelligent, professional protagonist never has the opportunity to speak her own truth, confront her abuser, or literally have even a single say in how she moves forward as a professional, because Man the Man, Dr. Man was able to fix it all behind closed doors and also off screen. No, get out of here. Boo, boo, you lose a star for that. Anyway, and then I read The Babysitter's Coven by Kate Williams. And seriously, I'm so glad I did. What a fun contemporary YA. And yes, this is about witches and magic, but in the same way that Bras and Broomsticks was about witches and magic. Do you guys remember that one by Sarah Mlynowski? Loved that series. Truly exceptional. Anyway, this is absolutely a contemporary YA. It has no business being shelved in YA fantasy at Barnes & Noble. The Winter Duke is a YA fantasy because it is set in an icy polar palace above a kingdom of mer people. This is a contemporary YA. It is about high school and cell phones and telekinesis. Okay, so this one is about Esme, who discovers that she has magical powers during a routine babysitting job. Specifically, she discovers that she is a sitter, capital S, a protector of humanity and fighter of demons. Realizing that her Babysitter's Club just got a whole lot more badass, Esme and her friends work to develop their powers and encounter their first open portal. 4 stars. Solidly good time. While not a high suspense page turner, this book was incredibly fun to read. It was definitely Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets The Babysitter's Club, which was my elementary school favorite series to read. But it wasn't a 5-star to me because the character development throughout the book still felt just like an introduction. So I know that there are more in this series, and I really look forward to reading them and discovering more about the interesting characters that Williams has created. It's got a lot of heart, hocus pocus, and high school. And finally, I finished the month with Ella Minnow Pea by Mark Dunn. Okay, so this book takes place in the self-sovereign nation of Nollop, just off the coast of the US, named after the person who wrote the sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." So they have this sentence in giant letters in the town square. And one day the letter X falls off the sign. So the city council takes this as a divine message from Nolep, from beyond the grave, that the entire country should strike the letter X from all of their vocabulary, both written and spoken. And as more and more letters fall off the sign, those letters are also removed from the country's vocabulary, and the country becomes increasingly more fundamentalist as a result. 4 stars. This allegory for censorship is both poignant and whimsical, and with unsettling undertones, it points out one of the most insidious aspects of fundamentalist alt-right politics, which is the folly of reasonable people not taking the threat of extremism seriously simply because it seems so ridiculous. This book brings to light many different aspects of censorship, and it still holds its weight 20 years later, especially when you think about all the nonsense going on in our state legislatures right now, like book bans in Indiana and the Don't Say Gay bill here in Florida. The fuck is going on in our country right now? But I'll talk more about that in my next video on censorship and book bans. But back to this book. While strong as an allegory, it is weak as a narrative. Because the intentionally elevated and inflated speech patterns are part of the character and identity of the island itself, the voices of the individual characters do get lost in the story. And now it's time for my favorite part of the month, my monthly giveaway. And this month, I'm giving away a new hardcover Barnes & Noble edition of Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I still haven't read this one yet, as I want to reread the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber before I read this one, as this is the first in a spin-off series of Caraval. This book follows the Prince of Hearts, or Jax, I believe, but I actually don't know much more than that, and I don't want to. For spin-offs or for additional books from authors that I love, I much prefer to go in blind. So with that being said, to whomever gets this book, I hope that you love it, and I hope that you tell me if you love it, but I hope that you do not tell me about it. Once again, these giveaways are just a way for me to connect with you and bond over some great books. So the giveaway itself will be over on Instagram, and all you have to do to enter is like and comment on the post that says giveaway. You don't have to be following me, although that would be rad. Just like and comment on the post. This month, comment your favorite series of all time. The giveaway will be up for 1 week, and then I'll use my random name picker app to choose the winner. And also, if your Instagram is private, make sure that you're checking your messages so that I can reach you and ask you for your address. All right, that's it for me. What did you read in February, and did you participate in any readathons? Polarthon, Pharaohfeb, Blackathon? Let me know down below. And then if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, hit subscribe. And of course, there's always Instagram. Take care, and as always, happy reading!